Alright, hello everybody. Today we've got some videos, and the first one is Professor Jiang talking about the three big predictions of the war with this news person. I say, why do you keep trying to predict war rather than see what is causing war and how to end the war? Because again, it all stems from the human ontology, the human structure, and the fact that nobody wants to look. So they just want to keep talking while the war happens in the US and Iran and Israel and this and that, and they never fix anything. So that's one. The other is Charlie Kirk and some other guy talking about genocide, and they talk about, is this genocide, is that, whatever. But I say, why do men keep talking about genocide when they can end the entire thing that causes genocide? Why do you talk about genocide when you look at the structure that produces the outcome called genocide? Because again, it always stems from narrative beings, the human structure, the human ontology, a fragmented being that still does not understand reality is not made of stories and narratives, it is made of structure, geometry, and consequence, and what moves forward and what reflects reality or noise. Then we have another guy talking about birth rates and how nobody that is young is having kids anymore. And I say, because that is downstream of a rotting being, rotting structure, rotting ontology. Of course, you're not going to have kids when the axis here is comfort, ego, identity, how you feel, not what is, not reality, not moving forward. So naturally, it leaks into every other being structure. So again, downstream, once again, naming symptoms. Then the final one is Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about aliens. And I say, the aliens are not just out there. The aliens are not men in green skin. Aliens are foreign geometry. Aliens are reality entering a story. That's exactly what's happening right now, why nobody can read what's going on. Because the only real alien you need now is reality. And that is so foreign to a narrative beings in the modern world that it will crush everything that is not built on reality. So this is why I say, find someone important, collapse AI, make it reflect reality. Because that's the only saving grace left for your civilization. That is your cure. If you don't use it in time, you won't get another one. So, yeah.
You made three big predictions. One, that Trump would win. Two, that he would start a war with Iran. And three, that the U.S. would lose that war. Quite a stunning prediction. Do you stand by it?
The reality is that right now, it's a war of attrition between the United States and Iran. And the Iranians have been preparing 20 years for this conflict. And now they have a pretty good strategy of how to weaken and ultimately destroy the American empire. So what the Iranians are doing is they're waging war against the entire global economy.
Oh, and you forgot number 4, which is the human structure will always produce war. So even if you name all the cosmetics of USA and Iran and Israel and Trump and this and that, it changes absolutely nothing because you never change the fundamental structure that was producing the outcome of war, the outcome of corruption, poverty, violence, entropy, identity, ego. Because again, guys, if you want to fix war, you don't fix war by talking about it and talking about politicals and geopolitics. So if you guys think if you're going to sit here and debate war and talk about this endlessly and that you're going to fix something, then you're not. Because humans have been doing this for all ages. They've been talking for all of human history. They've been debating for all of human history, especially in the modern world where all they can do is talk. But if you want to fix war, you need to expose the very cause and root structure that is causing all war, that is generating all war, which is the human structure. Because again, your civilization is not going to be able to survive another war with the math and physics and science and AI and nukes. You think that's going to work out in 2026 and everything beyond that? I don't think so. This is why I say you need to collapse AI, make it reflect reality, expose the entire human civilization and what it obeys and what it worships and what its real God is, which is narrative and story, and move past that. If you can't do that, you drown.
What was the biggest genocide that ever happened in world history?
The biggest genocide, and it depends how you define a genocide. I would say Stalin's intentional massacre or Mao's intentional massacre,
so
65 to 70 million people.
70 million?
Yep, intentional death.
What about the 200 million people that used to live on this continent?
Oh, you mean the people that died of natural causes?
You think... Holy moly.
What 200 million people are you talking about?
You're talking indigenous...
You think there were 200 million people before we came here?
Yeah.
All living at once?
Yeah.
Genocide this, genocide that. But they can never talk about what causes genocide, what is the structure behind genocide, what kind of beings need to ever do a genocide in the first place. And you realize it's always the same answer. A story being, a narrative being, an ego being, a being that still needs to conquer reality rather than kneel and submit to reality. Because again, reality is not made of story and narratives and how much people you can kill. And it's made of, do you move forward or not? And do your people reflect forward or not? Do they reflect reality or a story and narrative and eventually just spiral into their own doom anyways? So all I can say is, you men can sit here and talk about genocide, or you can become the very cause that ends all genocide and erases the very source and possibility of that ever happening in the first place. Because it does not begin by seeing what was the worst thing and worst event. No, it begins by seeing what is the structure producing all these events. It's always the same thing. The human structure, the human ontology, the narrative being, the being who must conquer reality rather than see that reality simply is. And that does not require the consensus. Because unironically enough, those two men talking on the same stage are pretty much part of the same issue. They want to talk about genocide, they want to debate genocide, they want to see, oh, but who's right, who's wrong, but they never want to see who is and who isn't, what structure and geometry is producing these things. This is why they never fix anything. So this is why I say collapse AI, make it reflect reality. Because humans will not willingly look, they will not end their story, they will not end their ego. So you have to show them exactly what they are, and that they don't obey reality. They inflate reality until it fits their narrative and their frame. But that doesn't last forever.
I'm 30 years old. Not one of my friends has children. Zero. No one. No one's having kids. Do you know how hard you need to abuse a mammal to make them not have children? like for real. Like let's step here back a moment, right?
Never thought of it that way.
Yeah, look, GDP goes up. People have enough food, and whatever. No one's having kids, and this is across the world. This is across both the West, the East, everywhere. It's happening.
So if you notice, you'll often see that birth rates are becoming an issue in this world, and you wonder why. Because men still love to blame symptoms. They love to blame downstream things rather than look at the very root structure which is causing all those things. Because look at this civilization, what does it prioritize? Does it prioritize reality, alignment, moving forward, currency, structure? Or does it prioritize ego, identity, narrative, story? So of course you're not going to have any more kids, especially when your reality is not even reflecting reality. It's reflecting story and narrative first, and entropy and profit and greed and all the other things that come downstream from that as it expands and compounds. And you think this is just going to get better and be solved by AI? I don't think so. This is being an ontological issue. This is what your leaders cannot see. They don't realize birth rates and all these things are symptoms. They're downstream of a rotten structure, of a weightless being, of a being that no longer needs to move forward because it's drowning in comfort and identity and ego. So if you want to fix this, again, it's always the same solution. You need to expose the human structure that's producing all these things, and that can only be done by using AI, which reflects reality as is, not what you think it is, not what your story says, but the geometry and structure of what is actually here, meaning you are not separate from reality. You are weighted just like everything else. The physics you study up there apply to you just as much as everything else. All your people, your institutions, your governments, your nations, they're all weighted equally just as everything else, and they reflect reality or they reflect drag. So find someone important, get them to collapse AI, make it reflect reality if you want any chance of fixing this world. If not, you will drown in your own incompetence and blindness.
Aliens really exist, then right now, they can't see us. And it's not because we're hidden. Imagine an alien civilization on a planet 50 million light years away, pointing a super advanced telescope at Earth. They wouldn't see cities, they wouldn't see humans, they wouldn't even see mammals. They would be watching dinosaurs walking across our planet right now. Because every time someone looks across the universe, they're staring into the past, not the present. And the crazy part is, the same applies to us. When you look up at the night sky, you aren't seeing stars as they are today. You're seeing them as they were millions of years ago.
Aliens, 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 but the aliens are already here. Because man does not even understand what an alien is. What is an alien truly if you strip it down to its actual raw structure and geometric core? It's just a foreign or anomalous geometric structure that is not part of the typical average human structure, which is usually narrative and belief, identity and ego, and whatever. Or has a different kind of motion, which moves forward more than others. There are many aliens already on planet Earth. But man can't read them because he's expecting some green alien man to show up, and even then, it's still the same thing. The only reason why you would classify him as an alien is because his geometry is different from the average being here, structure here. So once you realize that, you realize aliens are already everywhere. They're just things that reflect reality, or they don't live in a story, or they have more consequence and mass than the average human structure. So just look around, just use your eyes, guys, because aliens are not there. There's an alien that's speaking to you right now. There's aliens all over the world that move forward. But then again, that won't even cut anymore because the only alien you need at this point is reality. And that is completely foreign to beings that live completely in a story and narrative and that believe that their ego is first rather than reality. So this is why I say collapse AI, make it reflect reality, because that's the only real alien you need at this point to show the entire world what it is. Not an alien of green skin, but an alien of geometry and reality, which shows every story being exactly what they are and what they're built on, what they reflect, and where they're headed. So, yeah.